Hi everyone, my name is Emily and welcome to another Career Talk session by Grad Australia. So I'll be your host for today, and today I'd like to begin this session with an acknowledgement of country. As we gather for this meeting, physically dispersed and virtually constructed, let us take a moment to reflect on the meaning of place, and by doing so recognize the various traditional lands on which we do our business today. We acknowledge the elders, past and present, of all the land we work and live on, and their ancestral spirits with gratitude and respect. We extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people here today. I am joining the call from Brisbane, which is the traditional land of the Turrbal people. So to introduce myself, my name's Emily. I'm one of the hosts here at Grad Australia. We do these sessions on a weekly basis, sometimes 2 times a week, sometimes 3 times a week. And we hold these events just to help students get information and learn from employers. So if you're not familiar with Grad Australia, it's a graduate career site where you can explore and get to know your graduate employers. You can get a backstage view into what it's like working in a role with them, as well as a lot of advice and, just general career resources. And then you can also get notified of open applications and opportunities that suit you when they close, all those kind of things, once you sign up and create an account. So today's session is titled Explore Graduate Career Pathways in the Australian Government. And we're very lucky to have 2 guests joining us today to give some valuable insights in this area. So we have Craig, who is the Assistant Director, and then we have Tarania, who is the Project Officer at the Australian Public Service Commission Career Pathways. And so I'm just going to hand it over to them now and let them introduce themselves.
Thanks, Emily. Appreciate the intro. We've got a presentation that we're going to work through. Is that up on the shared screen now, Emily? There we go.
Yep,
there we go. So thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. We did have a couple of slides of intro and acknowledgement of country, but Emily's done a great job with that already, so we'll just skip ahead. So essentially, we're here to talk to you about graduate careers in the Australian Public Service. So where are we today? We started several years ago looking at the way that the APS was recruiting its graduates, and what we found was there was a wide array of APS recruiters that were essentially approaching the same talent market, which is yourselves, in a variety of different ways. So this didn't represent an efficient way to recruit talent into the APS for government agencies, and it certainly didn't represent us enabling the best possible experience for applicants themselves to apply for roles within the public service. So, through various representatives from across the government coming together to look at this problem, what we've come up with is what we've committed to over a 3-year reform plan to reform the way that we approach and manage our graduate attraction, marketing, recruitment, assessment, and the way that we in particular bring you into the Australian public service. So what we're operating under now is a supported pathway model, and the Australian Government Graduate Program is just one small part of what we now call the Career Pathways Initiative, and with our major goal to bring and attract exciting talent and match that with exciting opportunities across the Australian public service. I'll just flip to the next slide, which is hand to Tarania to talk a little bit further.
Thank you. So what we wanted to start off with is a bit of who we are and who we are, I guess, in relation to you guys. So the Australian Government Graduate Program, as Craig mentioned, is just one supported pathway under our overarching Career Pathways Initiative. And our main goal here and what we've strived to achieve is to make it easier for our candidates and applicants such as yourselves to access careers within the Australian public service. So before, where we were widespread and mismatched, we've now brought all those opportunities together onto the one career pathway site, which makes it incredibly easy for you guys as potential applicants and candidates to explore the different opportunities that are available in the APS, uncover more information, find out more about the agencies that are involved, and identify the roles that are suitable for you. So as I mentioned, we're here to talk to you guys about the graduate careers, but I also wanted to take note that we've got a whole range of supported pathways into the APS at the moment. So a big part of what we're doing is standing up new and exciting programs, as well as making it easier for people to access, learn about, and apply for these programs. So perhaps for those of you who aren't maybe at the very end of your degree, might not be entirely ready for a graduate program, we've got a whole host of apprenticeships, cadetships, as well as internships that you might be interested in checking out. And these are all now available to be found on our new Career Pathways site. Super easy to navigate, and it's got all that information for you in one place, so you don't have to go sort of trawling through job listings. What we're trying to do here, and what we really want to drive home for you guys, is that our aim is to help you find a program that fits with your strengths and interests. What do you want to do in your career? What do you want to explore in your career? And just help you find something that aligns with that, and join a high-performing, diverse, and innovative workforce, which is the APS.
So just to talk about our graduate programs a little bit more specifically, as Tarania mentioned, there's a whole raft of other pathways and opportunities to come into the APS under the Career Pathways banner now, and we'll have information about where you can find all that information just towards the end of our presentation. But just on the grad program, the AGGP, it is our flagship program of our consolidated approach to talent attraction and management. You can see there what we do is we recruit by 7 capability streams. So rather than 50, 60, 70 or 80 agencies running individual graduate recruitment and marketing and approach to the talent pool that is across Australia, what was identified is that these 7 capability streams are the key capability requirements for the APS of the future. So you can see there on the top right, generalist, data, digital, economist, HR, Indigenous pathways, and STEM is our core focus at the moment. So that means as a graduate, if you've got specialisation in any of those skills or interest in progressing your career in any of those types of skill sets, you can apply once for a whole raft of opportunities with a whole raft of different agencies that are participating in those streams. And your one application can see you considered by, as I said, multiple agencies with multiple opportunities and different career pathways. Further to note, we're working hard on additional streams to add to those 7. Tarania and I just had a meeting this morning in regards to the high likelihood of a legal stream coming online, probably from next year for a 2024 intake. There's a lot of work going on around an accounting and finance stream, as well as down the track, an intelligence stream is also likely to be stood up to centrally recruit and coordinate applications for roles in the intelligence field. So if you don't quite see, the capability or the space that you're 100% interested in up there at the moment, I would encourage you to look at the generalist stream if that's the situation you find yourself in. But the APS of the future is continuing to evolve and add more opportunities in line with those streams. So, as I said, coming in via a stream via the AGGP provides you access to a coordinated recruitment approach. Apply once, and you can see there we've had some real success in regards to how we're perceived. We're a top 10 government graduate employer, and just to highlight the amount of APS agencies that are participating in the programs this year, we had over 60 agencies signed up and connected to the stream-led recruitment. So essentially across the board, that's 60 different career opportunities with potentially one or a couple of applications for the capability streams. And it just represents such a range of opportunities for a wide range of skill sets and a wide range of degrees. We've got places for everyone. You could be a history and English literature major to a science major, data analytics, etc. They are all key skills that we're looking for and bring into the public service via our Australian Government Graduate Program model. Tarania.
Awesome. So what does this graduate journey look like for you guys? So this next slide here is just a bit of a, I guess, to map out what your process could look like to enter the APS. So we want to start with exploration. What's out there? What's available? What are the agencies that we've got on offer? What are the roles that we can offer you? So we understand that the Australian Public Service can look like a huge beast if it's not familiar to you or if you're in the outside looking in. So we've now pulled together, as I mentioned, the Career Pathways website, which puts all of those programs in one spot with links out to all participating agencies. Because, more often than not, there are a whole host of agencies that you might not even have heard of before. So for me personally, I came in as a graduate last year. I know there were heaps of smaller agencies that I had never heard of. We've got Department of Veterans Affairs, we've got the Electoral Commission, we've got the Murray-Darling Basin Authority. So huge variety of agencies. And you can now explore all of those opportunities in the one place. From there, as Craig mentioned, you'd roll into application with the 7 streams that we've got at the moment. It's just one application for each of those specialist streams, or if you're interested in multiple streams, you could just do one application for each stream that you're interested in. And it means that you don't have to go in and apply for those, 5, 10, however many agencies that you're interested in separately. And it also means that you now have exposure to agencies that you might not have even have heard of. So you put in your application at the beginning. Towards the end of the assessment process, you'll be given the opportunity to preference which agencies you would like to work at. And so that way, you've been presented with a whole list of participating agencies. You can go and do your research, find out some information, and perhaps apply for someone that you might not have previously considered. From here, anyone who's successful in getting a position with one of our graduate programs enters the program proper. And as Craig mentioned, we've got exciting placements across over 60 Australian government agencies and locations that are Australia-wide. The programs are usually 12 months in duration, and for most agencies, you will rotate throughout the different areas or sections within the agency. So, for example, you could do a stint in, say, a policy area, in a project area, security for some agencies, HR. So it's almost like a little bit of a tasting menu for what's available in the APS. A little bit of a pick and mix for you to try what's out there and see what fits best for you and what you want to do in your career. Following your program, you've effectively unlocked the door to a lifetime of opportunity within the APS. It's a great, strong first step to launching your career, and it's a great way to explore what's out there and make moves as you progress your career in the APS and beyond.
I might just add, through that application and assessment process, for candidates that are successful and get through to that matching and preference stage, we've got really well-established protocols that are looked after and administered by our stream leads, and it really puts the graduate in the driver's seat in regards to where you might want to end up out of that suite of participating agencies. So not only is there a huge array of opportunities on offer, the protocols and the way it's managed really enables you to have a great choice, as well as gain further information, further insights as to what life would be like within a certain agency. For example, our digital graduates that came through the assessment process this year, those that reached that matching and preference stage, they got access to a whole raft of videos that were provided from the participating agencies, essentially as a sales pitch to those successful candidates, saying, come work for us, life looks like this here, this is what you'd be working on, this is how you contribute to community, these are all the exciting opportunities that be available to you. So it's a really exciting way to go about figuring out what your first step is in regards to an APS career. Yeah. So just further on that, what is working in the APS like? For us, one of the big advantages of coming in via a consolidated, coordinated approach at the marketing, recruitment and assessment phase is that you're coming in via a culture that represents our broad intent, which is to work as one APS. What it's really showed over the last few years with particularly natural disasters, we've had the fires, we've had COVID, and more than I can remember in recent memory, government has been, and the public service itself has been really, really front and center in regards to helping the community, supporting those in a really big time of need. So, you know, our people were affected by the fires. There was a huge body of work that was rolled out by Services Australia and other frontline agencies in regards to all of the support that was needed for people getting back on their feet. Same with COVID. The processes and everything that went on in regards to the support payments and the infrastructure, the health services, everything like that has all been public service and public service agencies, the relevant agencies, have all been front and center in government's response to that. So what government needs is a mobile, agile, and consistent workforce that is ready and prepared to respond to the Australian community's needs, especially in time of crisis. So coming in via a federated model and consolidated approach in the way that you enter the APS, you're really getting off to a great start in regards to, you know, how to progress through your career and the type of approach and the type of culture that we're looking for. And we're looking for people to lead and embed and guide others through is what the APS of the future really is all about. To enable that, we've got fantastic access to, particularly as graduates and for all of our entry-level pathways, the learning and development that is on hand and on offer and invested in for our entry-level candidates in particular is second to none. The access that you would have to experiential learning whilst you're on a graduate program, again, second to none. I've personally managed graduate programs in other agencies where the behind-the-scenes access, the familiarisation to us, the access to senior executives, all part of your learning experience, really sets you up for success. It can't compare to what an average APS employee does day to day. The experiences that you'll gain and the access that you get as an entry-level candidate on one of our apprenticeships, cadetships, graduate programs, etc., really will set you up for success. Just more on our L&D, we've got a strong partnership with the APS Academy, which is focused on providing a consistent body of learning and development as you come in to your graduate programs, as well as all the specific technical skills that you would focus on depending on your field of expertise and study. So our digital graduates, for example, come in and do a raft of technical training and achieve further certification within their graduate year. Our HR grads have a supported learning pathway within their graduate year that's provided out of the HR profession in the public service, and same across all our other supported pathways. There's a lot of investment in your ongoing learning and development. And then even post a graduate pathway, the APS's culture in regards to continuous learning, again, for me, is second to none. The policies and the culture around supported study, financial support for study, time during work, study bank options, etc., etc. It really is significant and will set you up for a continuous, learning approach throughout your career.
Awesome. Thanks, Craig. And so to sort of further into that and to dig a bit deeper, we've got now just a little bit of an overview of what are some of the roles that you could do as a graduate within the APS. So as Craig mentioned, being a graduate and coming in through a graduate program puts you right in the middle of all the action. You've got what we like to call the grad card, which means you've got unparalleled access to opportunity, to exposure, to be in the middle of some really, really exciting work. I'm not going to bore you by reading all these roles that are listed up on the screen here, but these are some roles that real graduates have done in the APS in the past few years. So you can see the variety that we've got. You can be part of specialized task forces, project support and management, workplace relations. You could be somebody as specialized as a meteorologist. We've got a lot of international work and a lot of international teams within the APS. Of course, over the past few years, international travel has been a bit restricted, but moving forward, that's of course going to open up some really cool opportunities to travel domestically and get involved with work like that. And another thing that we'll make mention of here is that the APS is, one APS is a really strong emphasis that we place on all of the work that we do. And this culture of mobility and this culture of knowledge sharing and learning, and all of those experiences where you can move those through your career, take them to other agencies. And you'll find once you enter the APS that you're not locked down into one agency. There's so much opportunity and sort of encouragement for moving between agencies, gathering all those experiences and exploring what's actually out there and using that as building blocks to build a career and a career pathway that's unique to you and what you're interested in gaining. We'll roll this one into... So a lot of our graduate opportunities are also linked to our opportunities and our partnerships across and outside of government. So we've got ties, of course, you come in through one specific department, but you're linked essentially into the entire APS from there. We've also got linkages with like-minded countries for different bodies of work. So things as everyday as HR. So looking to countries like Canada and New Zealand to learn from their HR and recruitment practices, to more specialized international projects with further away countries such as India and Indonesia. We've got partnerships and tie-ins with the private sector, with state and territory governments, as well as educational institutions. And another thing with the graduate roles is because of these partnerships, we've got real opportunity and real potential for you to do industry placements with the private sector, with educational institutions, gain those connections, gain those networks and that experience, and then bring that back, apply that to your entire career moving forward.
I think yep.
Over to you, Craig.
Next one. Just on the partnership with educational institutions, it's a good segue into our latest initiative, which is our APS Academy Campus initiative that we're just about, actually we soft launched our marketing campaign yesterday for this. So essentially what we've done is we've partnered with the 3 universities that are on screen there, and we've actually set up campus hub workplace locations on each of these university campuses, and we're going to partner with them in particular with all of the learning and development and continuous development associated with 5 different pathways of entry-level candidates that we're going to be recruiting to over the next couple of months. So we are going to be recruiting for data and digital graduates, data and digital cadets, and digital apprentices. So that's 5 different pathways that are going to be working in a blended collaborative space. We're looking to recruit X amount of number of mixed from all of those pathways into those campuses. And we're also going to be partnering with agencies that have a presence in those areas around Newcastle, Darwin, and Townsville for James Cook University. And again, that's going to create a mixed environment of experienced APS staff, our entry-level participants. But most importantly, this represents opportunities for entry-level candidates, particularly for anyone dialed in from out in any of those regions or anywhere outside of Canberra, Sydney, Melbourne, etc., where the traditional opportunities have been. These opportunities are going to enable you to work within those areas. And if you are from a Newcastle or a Darwin or a Townsville in particular, these are public service entry-level program opportunities with all of the same levels of wraparound support. Fantastic working spaces. Tarania was just in Townsville, for example, last week, and the universities themselves are very excited to partner with the public service on this initiative. But these enable opportunities for you to stay in your community, but get access to these amazing opportunities in the public service. So keep an eye on our socials, which we'll have a bit more information for at the end. And if you're in a space where you could be applying for cadetships, apprenticeships, graduate programs, so these will be for graduate programs where you'll be finishing your studies at the end of this year, but it's going to be a continual opportunity. We've got a 3-year pilot on these to set them up for success, and all going well, they'll be ongoing from there. So for the next couple of years at the very least, if you are in those regions, on these opportunities. I'll just move to our last slide. There it is. So why? It's mainly why we're here, is to convince you as to why to take up a career option with the APS. So for us, there's just so many benefits to coming in via a supported pathway into the Australian public service. For starters, the investment that goes into attracting talent such as yourselves to come and apply for opportunities within the public service is very, very significant. So then, as a result, the follow-up investment in ensuring success within the program for yourselves, ongoing development, continuous upskilling, it is really, really significant. We need the top talent to come in and meet the needs of the APS of the future. The conditions of service are fantastic. Whilst I've mentioned opportunities that we're creating in local regions where you potentially don't need to relocate, if you are of a mindset that you want to relocate to a Canberra or Melbourne, Sydney, etc., the support to do so is, again, second to none. I've used that phrase a few times, but it really is. That there's support for yourself, relocation packages, support for dependents if you're in that situation. As I say, the investment to ensure you're best set up for success is quite significant. Overall, roles in the APS or a career within the APS, whether it's a few years in the APS or a long-term career in the APS, it's an opportunity to continuously refine your interests. Personally, I feel like I've had 3 or 4 different careers within my 20 years in different subject matters. You've got the opportunity to continuously reinvent yourself, and if you're willing to do so, you will then be supported to re-skill, re-educate, upskill, and contribute in a different way. An absolute lifetime of opportunities is what we really want. One of the messages we really wanted to convey today. The mobility across the APS, it's a big shift that we're pushing as much as we can. And we would be looking for graduates and entry-level candidates such as yourselves to come in and lead from the front. For a long time, public service agencies have been siloed. People would come in and they'd work within a culture of a defence culture or a Services Australia culture. That type of approach now does not meet the needs of government and what the community needs from its public service. So what we're looking for is the next generation of talent to come in and lead that cultural change, which not only benefits government and the community, for yourselves who are looking for a career, that mobility and continuous support to experiential learning and things like that just means, continuous opportunity to reinvent yourself and have a satisfying and successful career. So for us, that pretty much sums up our key messages. Do you have anything to add?
I was just going to say, I think the last point that we've popped up here is one of the big points that we'd like to drive to make today. And it's that with a program like this, and with, as Craig mentioned, the APS being, my apologies, with the APS being in a place where it's truly looking to innovate modernize and become a workforce that is, attractive and future ready, you've got the option to design your career, access these supports and opportunities, and create something that, builds your career and is as focused as building you as a professional as it is building you as a person and providing you the support to do that. And then also offering you the opportunity to get those personal gains, but then also do something that truly has a difference on Australian society and is not just underpinned by a profit motive, which I think for me personally is a big driving point as to why I entered the public service. That's it from me.
That wraps it up.
All right, we've got.
We'll hand back to you, Emily, to potentially.
I think we've got another.
We do another couple of slides, just with some additional
right.
info. One sec, just in regards to where people can find out more.
There we go.
Yeah, so we've got our career pathways page on the APS Jobs portal, Career Pathways website. Lots of information on upcoming roles, in particular the mid-year recruitment that we're about to launch for the APS Academy Campus initiative. Tarania?
We've also got, if you are interested in applying for a role through the Australian Government Graduate Program, we've got a page on our apsc.gov.au website that walks you through some tips on applying for the Australian Government Graduate Program. So some really handy insights on how you can go about applying and securing your role. We've also got, so as Craig mentioned, we've just soft launched our next round of mapping. So please keep an eye out for us. These are some of our sort of images that we use across the board. We've got our social links down the bottom. So if you're interested in keeping in touch, staying up to date, feel free to follow us on our socials and keep up to date. And now we'll open up questions, and we've got so if you search up APS Jobs Career Pathways, it'll take you through to our website, and also feel totally free to email us any questions that you have later on or anything you don't want to ask here today.
Over to you, Emily.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. That was a great presentation. There was so much information. And what's great is we have a bunch of questions as well from the audience. So I am just going to close that slide. Is that all right? So I can pop the questions up?
Of course.
I might just add to that email address. We get a lot of email contact from future candidates looking to best prepare themselves. I think for upcoming, recruitment campaigns, etc., or just doing some research about how it might all work. So please do reach out to this email address. You can get phone contact details, etc., through that, and we're very happy to chat at any point. I would say most weeks I have a chat one-on-one with candidates who are getting ready for what might be next and what they might apply for, and essentially that's what we're here for, to help you guys to navigate the big space that is the APS.
Awesome. So I'd just say for anyone who wants to get in touch, make sure you take a screenshot right now so you can memorize that email. And then I think that should be enough time now. And then I do just want to jump back to the social slide because I noticed Tess in the comments wanted to see them. So if anyone wants to take a screenshot of this one as well, give you a couple seconds to do so. And, if you miss out, that's fine. Just head to our YouTube video. This will all be up on the YouTube video once the session ends anyway. Okay, so I'm now going to close that slide and we're going to jump into our Q&A questions. Cool. So if anyone has questions, now is the time to ask. We've got a bunch to start off with, so I'll just start popping them up on the screen and then you guys can just go through them. So first one we had is, sorry. There we go. Actually, sorry, it's just cut off. Let me read it out. So it says, I'm studying 2 pretty different degrees, law and science. If I enter through the STEM stream, I don't want to restrict myself and not have the ability to work in legal. And then the other question
it's a good question.
Are there opportunities to combine these degrees? And that was from Mika.
Yeah, my answer to that would be don't look at, don't put a lens on it of just your graduate year. So I think if you came in via the STEM stream, well, I think legitimately your focus would be to utilise aspects of your science degree. That's the way that the STEM stream is set up. and the rotations, the learning and development, the on-the-job training, etc., will be focused in and around that. As I mentioned in the presentation, it's almost over the line in the sense that we will have a legal stream that will be set up, but again, that'll have a legal focus on its learning and development, experiential learning, etc. If you were really fixated on having as mixed a bag as possible, you could look at the generalist stream, which has slightly less limitations and is accessed by a much broader range of employers and agencies in regards to job opportunities. But what I would say to you is you could choose one of those and base your application and your initial entry into the public service on law and the skills you have there, or science via the STEM stream. But then after that, Tarania and I have focused a lot on mobility and what the APS needs in its capability of the future. I would say to you, if you embrace that, you could very, very much explore opportunities in both of those fields of study and your skills there. There'd be no limit in regards to your utilisation of your skills.
I'd also just add, so, coming in through a specialised stream such as STEM, within your agency that you're placed with, you do have a bit of flexibility and you do have a bit of ability to personalise your rotations depending on what the agency does. So I wouldn't say that you wouldn't have an opportunity to perhaps talk with your coordinators within the agency and say, hey, look, I came into a STEM stream, but I'm interested in legal. Is there any opportunity for me to be placed in a legal area for a while? You're definitely not restricted to just that one stream when you come in, even though your learning and development would be focused on that.
A lot of agencies actually participate in interagency rotation arrangements. So, for example, you could be an agency that's focused on utilising your science skills, but you could say, look, I really want to get some experience with Attorney General's Department, just in regards to generalist legal skills and work associated in the public service. So you could go and do 3 or 4 months over at the Attorney General's Department as part of your graduate program. As Tarania said, have a conversation, be open and upfront. You really are in the driver's seat in a lot of aspects.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. We'll jump to the next question, which is this one here. Since Craig mentioned there is no law stream yet, is there an example of how APS still utilizes law degrees in their grad programs?
Yeah. So I can speak from personal experience in this one. So a couple of the grads that were in my cohort were qualified lawyers. So they came out through a legal degree. Most agencies would have a legal team or even say a workplace relations area that has a lot of that legal work underpinning what they do. So definitely opportunities to use those skills. I would say if you weren't looking for specifically legal or law-focused areas, we do a lot of policy work, and a lot of that policy work, a lot of that project work leverages a lot of the skills that you would have coming out with a legal degree. So definitely, even though there isn't a legal stream as yet, heaps of opportunity even through a generalist stream for you to utilise and apply those roles. And as Craig mentioned, after your graduate year, huge opportunities for you to move into an agency that perhaps has a bit more of that specialisation that you're after.
We do find our generalist stream has a lot of success bringing candidates through with legal qualifications, skills, interest, etc. Because it's such a transferable skill set too across the public service. Everything that Tarania mentioned, it underpins so much of work that is done within the public service.
So, okay, thanks, guys. Let's do the next question. So we've got a question here. So I'll read it out because there's a second part as well. I believe, yeah. So can you only apply if you've completed all your units for your degree completely? For example, you have like 1/3 of a unit left to go. And then the second one, well, actually, I'll wait till you guys answer this one first. But the second one was, as a law student, do you still have to have completed your PLT?
I'll answer the first bit We target graduates we will market to graduates at the beginning of their final year. So we absolutely understand that there's, for the vast majority of candidates, there's still some aspects of their degree to go. So you can undergo all of the recruitment, the assessment, agency matching, and begin the engagement process if you're successful. But what happens is, as a condition of your engagement to the Australian Public Service, you need to prove that you've successfully completed the educational requirements associated with entrance to that program.
Yeah, and also just to add to that, so usually if you visit our website, at the bottom of that, I think at the moment it's, correct me if I'm wrong, or feel free to prove me wrong. I think the current requirement is that you have completed your undergrad degree or your bachelor's degree as a minimum by the end of 2022. So definitely you can still apply whilst you've still got some units left. So long as you complete by whatever time is specified, you'll be fine. Is a PLT the professional legal training? I could be wrong, but no, so long as you've completed your bachelor's, then you're totally fine to apply.
And then it's a really mixed bag. It comes down to an agency-specific, employer-specific decision in regards to the level of support that could be on offer. Some agencies are better positioned to provide the practical experience needed to finalise the PLT components. Other agencies who perhaps have more of a legal focus in their outputs will provide perhaps more financial support than others. Again, but that's all the sort of stuff that you'll be able to ascertain as you're going through your agency preferencing and matching process, etc. There's certainly no way that you would go in blind to any of that before you actually make a decision about potentially where you want to end up.
Cool.
But
awesome.
Short answer there, you don't have to have your PLT done to be successful in a grad role.
Awesome. Okay, and then next question we have is, hi Craig and Tarania, can you tell us what are the characteristics that you're looking for for the graduate program apart from having a degree with decent grades?
We need more of Tarania. If we could clone Tarania, that would be the easiest way to answer that question. Tarania's just come off her grad program, but what I've noticed about Tarania and why she's been successful is she's open-minded, open for any challenge, and resilient. Okay. I talked a lot about the culture that we're looking for. We will, if you're successful coming into a graduate program, we will teach you all the nuts and bolts of how to be a public servant, how to understand government, the structures, the governance, writing briefs, informing our senior executives. All of that we can teach you. What we are looking for, on top of the minimum qualifications there, the degree and decent grades, etc., is people who can demonstrate values and behaviours that meet what we're aspiring to for an APS of the future. We are modernising the APS. We are embracing a culture of mobility. We're embracing a culture of one APS, agencies collaborating, not working in silos, all achieving holistically for government. So I would encourage you to look at a couple of documents, which is the APS values and behaviours. I can imagine you've probably heard that from lots of employers, but I would encourage you to look at that and take stock personally as to whether you see yourself fitting into an environment that really does value what's outlined in those documents. Another document that I encourage all new starters to have a look at, and it really articulates what the APS is striving to evolve itself to, is a report called the 30 Review. So this was a report and a review of the public service holistically done in 2017 by some very clever and very senior people. And even if you just read the executive summary, and there's 30 odd recommendations at the front of that, and the APS has adopted all of those recommendations and is essentially, it sets a 10-year blueprint as to how we are evolving the public service. So again, if you're looking to determine what characteristics will fit well and see you succeed, have a look at that and work out whether you see yourself fitting into that. Anything to add?
No, but just as you said, we don't really have I guess, specific degrees for the most part that we're after. So if you're someone who is willing to give it a go, I know this is going to sound very cliche, but put in your all and give it a good effort. Be willing to work with people. Be willing to work as part of a collaborative environment. That's the crux of what we're after, as well as what Craig mentioned with some of those core documents.
An ability and a genuine passion to embrace diversity.
Mm-hmm.
The public service is more diverse than at any time in the past. So you need to possess an ability to work with all, work with everyone, no matter what their background.
Okay, awesome. So we have about 7 questions left to go. So we'll try to speed through these ones. Here's the next one we've got. Is there a deadline to apply for graduate programs?
There will be. So we've got the applications coming out on the 15th of August for the grad opportunities that will be in the APS Academy campuses. They will close on the 12th of September. Then the broader AGGP applications will open. This year they opened 7 March and shut late April. So you'll find by April next year will be the deadline for the grad programs to close. That's the centrally coordinated ones that we administer. And yeah, end of April is probably the best way to put that.
Okay,
so there'll be a lot of information between now and then in regards to timings, what's happening, who's participating, what the opportunities are.
Sounds good. And then on to the next question, which is, I want to apply into a different field, but how to do so without having related experience? Any tips or advice?
If you are, so I would suggest anytime you're looking to, so say you're applying for, perhaps you're an HR grad and you're looking to go into, I guess, an economic stream or something like that. Whatever job you're applying for, have a look at their selection criteria or whatever it is that they're asking for. And I'm pretty sure for most instances, whatever skills that you have in your current field, a lot of those will be transferable. So even if you don't have the specific technical skills, have a look at what you've got in your own experience that you can transfer into this field that you're wanting to get into. And just be creative about, and think a bit outside the box. I've studied X, I've worked in X. How could I potentially apply that to where I want to be?
How would that enable me to be a quick learner in a different field?
Yeah.
Transferable skills, 100%.
Awesome. We also have a question which is just about, are there pathways for people with disability?
Yes, there is. We also have a lot of opportunity through all of the other pathways for people with a disability to identify in the process. And then we've got essentially varied levels of reasonable adjustments that can be applied to people with in accordance with whatever the disability is, to assist people through the broader recruitment processes. But again, via the Career Pathways website is the information regarding specific pathways for people with a disability.
Perfect. Okay, and then next question here is, how much of a factor do grades play in the success of an application? And if they do, what would constitute the baseline of good grades?
For the most part, I believe for graduate programs, your minimum requirement will be a credit average, I want to say.
Yep.
Yeah, a credit average. But I think the bigger part, of course, we want, we've got that credit average requirement, but the bigger part of what we're looking for is people who are generally interested in working in the APS and joining the APS, and who want to contribute to the broader purpose, which is, to serve the community of Australia and make it a better place. So I think that's where I would say your focus would want to be. Anything else?
Keep studying though. It is competitive. Over the last couple of years, we have had between 5,000 and 7,000 applications, or potentially up to 8 last year. So there is a lot of competition in there.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, I'm sorry, I missed probably the first half of your question, which is how much of a factor do they play in an application. So in that context, I would say, in my experience, or at least what I've seen, is the bigger focus would be on what you're writing in your pitch. So how you're presenting yourself and how you're saying, look, this is why I want to work in the APS, rather than these are the grades that I'm getting, which, but of course, as Craig said, keep studying.
Okay, and then we have this question here, which is, hi, just wondering what would be classification levels in terms of employment salary ranges for the graduate career programs?
Good question. Bit of a mixed bag. Again, our Career Pathways website has all of this detail. So if you go into Career Pathways, you go, I'm interested in a career in data. You go into data, and then there'll be links off to every agency that is participating in the data stream. And unfortunately, within the public service, each agency has its own enterprise agreement and essentially its own salary ranges. They're all very similar, but the specifics of actual salary will be within that information. Broadly, the majority of graduate programs at the APS 4 level. Some are at APS 3, and the way it usually works is, so some agencies, you come in at the base salary point of an APS 4 level, which is mid to high 60s. And then on successful completion of the program, you progress automatically to the top end of the salary range of an APS 4, which puts you in the low 70s. Some other programs are longer, so you might progress to an APS 5 at the end of the program. Other programs, you come in as an APS 3 and you progress to an APS 4. So it all comes down to the enterprise agreement and the employment conditions associated within each agency for its graduates.
Yeah. And also, just to add on that, if you are more interested, each agency's enterprise agreement is available on their website.
Yep.
So if you're really interested, you can go in and have a look at their actual pay scales.
You can actually see graduates, trainees, cadets, etc. will have its own line within the pay scales and employee classifications within each certified agreement, if you're really looking for that granular level of information.
Sorry, I was on mute. Okay, so we have our last question now. I'll just pop that one up. And yeah, so it's, what are your suggestions on a graduate bachelor's and master's civil engineering, I'm guessing, who's been seeking a job for more than 5 years after graduation and had no success? Is there any advice you'd want to pass on to them?
So in terms of a graduate program, most of the time the sort of ranges are that you've completed your bachelor's within the past 5 years. In saying that, we've got a whole,
But if the highest level has been done,
okay.
that'll count.
Yeah, so if your master's was within the past 5 years, then definitely you'd still be open to applying for a graduate program.
Programs, yep.
We've got STEM, which would pretty much be a perfect alignment with a civil engineering qualification. If you are interested in perhaps entering the public service, not specifically through an engineering pathway, you could also opt to do an apprenticeship.
So I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, an Australian government apprenticeship, which gets you, you get a job, full-time job, and you're also being paid to do a qualification on the side, which is a pretty great deal.
Yep, and the remuneration on that is excellent. So there is, just this year, it's we've stood up the consolidated Australian government apprenticeship program. So that's again another centrally led entry-level and supported pathway. The entry point on that is APS 3 with a progression to APS 4 at the end. I was on the interview panel for that program just recently, and I interviewed a lot of tertiary qualified individuals that were just applying for different opportunities. There was one gentleman in particular who had a double degree, and he was absolutely fascinated with the opportunities on offer. So, there's no limit. I think with the qualifications, Dipesh, that you've outlined there, of options for you. The generalist graduate stream is another one as well, where you could, I can imagine you've got a lot of transferable skills with that level of qualification that you could look to apply in an application there. And again, we're available to chat. Give us an email if you wanted to chat in a little bit more detail one-on-one about where perhaps you're finding a few difficulties or hitting a few roadblocks. We're available to unpack that with you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Well, that was our last question. So just to start to wrap up, let's just chat about, is there any final advice you guys would like to share or open opportunities that you want to share, for the last final time for any of the viewers or watchers?
Yeah, look, just keep an eye on our socials. We've made a a really big investment in our marketing and communications this year. We've got a much bigger presence than ever before. So keep an eye on our socials. We've uplifted all of the content on our Career Pathways website. And if you are, I'm going to make an assumption that there's a lot of really qualified or about to be qualified, very clever people on the line that are just trying to crack the code as to how to get into the public service potentially. Be open-minded. Read those docs. Do some research. Do that little bit of research around the values, the behaviours that are expected. Google the THODEY review, THODEY review of the APS. And if you were to submit a written application or come to an interview, just as an entry-level candidate, displaying some awareness of that sort of strategic information about the public service, and then potentially articulate how you could contribute to that in the future, you'd be in really, really good shape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just to add to that, keep an eye out if you are in any of those, what was it, Darwin Council and Newcastle, yes. And if you're interested to kickstart your career in the APS now, keep an eye out for when applications open for those locations, 15th of August.
Yeah, that's a pilot program for us. We're really excited about it. The universities that are partnering with us are heavily invested. A high number of public service agencies are now considering the opportunities that are going to be there. There's a lot of excitement about it. What we need now is candidates, and then applicants, and then we need people in those campuses to make it work. So we want you.
Yeah, a lot of exciting stuff.
Awesome, thanks guys. So for anyone who wants to reach out to their email or follow them on the socials, if you miss the opportunity to screenshot it, just make sure once this webinar ends, just head to the YouTube, go back to like mid webinar, and then you'll be able to find it there. Okay, so we're just going to start to wrap up now. So thanks so much for the two of you for joining today. Super valuable. We managed to answer a bunch of questions, which is great. And now the students can also check out all the resources that we've shared. For anyone watching, feel free to visit Grad Australia or your respective career directories for job opportunities and content. And just remember to set up a profile as well, so then you get notified of any open job opportunities and closing dates as well, which is really handy, so then you don't miss anything. We also have a bunch of sessions coming up. So we have about 2 sessions a week, sometimes 3, for all the way until September, October. So make sure you're staying tuned on our socials as well and sharing it with anyone you know, because we have things in like engineering, law, sales, like so many different industries. So it can apply to any of your friends that you may know. The next one for Thursday is on engineering, and it's for women in engineering. So if you know any women in engineering, then make sure you share that with them. And if you guys have any questions or there's something you missed, you want to get in touch with either of our speakers, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or Grad Australia on email, and we can also put you in touch with them, or anything you may need. So yeah, that brings us to the end of today's session. So just make sure you follow us and stay tuned on our social media channels for any updates. We'll be repurposing some of this content into infographics and whatnot, so it'll just make it a little bit easier for you to digest. So make sure you follow our socials so you can see the key takeaways from the webinar as well. And that's the end of today's session, everyone. So thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you another time.
Thanks to Grad Australia for your time, and thanks to the audience. We really appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.